Do you want to learn more about Rust in 2026, but you don't have time to check everything that happened in 2025 for the Rust programming language? This video is for you, because I went to the Rust Conf in Seattle at the end of 2025, they also gave me this amazing plushie, and I delivered a talk about everything that happened based on the official Rust blog. So you have two choices, either you check all the Rust blog articles, good luck with that, or you check this 15 minutes video. I highly recommend you to keep watching because you might save a lot of time. Good luck! I spent many hours reading all the blog articles on the official Rust blog, and I will try to recap this in 15 minutes, so you don't have to read them all. That's quite convenient, of course, for you, not for me. The biggest event is the Rust 2024 edition, which has been released in 2025, which is a bit confusing. You can see here in the package, in the cargo.toml file, you actually now can write 2024. This enables major features, for example, the new drop order semantics like the let chain. I will show this in a few minutes. It's also used to improve language consistency. For example, it standardized the unsafe keyword. I don't know if you ever heard about the unsafe keyword in Rust. It's basically, removes all the seat belts, refine some core mechanics, for example, new lifetime capture rules. If you want a video about lifetimes, you can check at the link below. Something that made me very excited. We have these Rust let chains. You can see here that we can chain let expressions within condition operands of if and let statements using the ampersand operator. Check here the before and after. I like the after way more. Of course, if you have, let's say, at least 3 ifs. For 2 ifs is fine, but if you have 3 ifs, probably you want something like this. If let, and this of course does the same thing, but I think this is more readable. And I think for a language verbose as Rust, it's important. Smarter lifetime capture rules. The lifetime capture rules are now way smarter, because writing functions that return impl future is far less noisy. Check the left and check the right. Before we had to add the noise, this annoying thing, explicitly telling the compiler to connect to the lifetime, now we can just write this one. In Rust 2024, this compiles without any extra syntax. So less code to write. Unsafe extern blocks. In Rust, when we type this extern C to add some C code in our Rust code, by default, that's unsafe, because we are writing code which is not Rust inside this Rust application. They decided, for human reasons, to be 100% explicit, because now you have to add this unsafe keyword. It was not needed, because extern C implied unsafe, but at Rust they don't want to imply things. So now you have to type unsafe extern. This block, it will be super clear, even to people who are not that used to Rust, that this is unsafe Rust. This is also another important update. We have this MSRV-aware resolver. MSRV stands for Minimum Supported Rust Version. Previously, the cargo update would break your build if a dependency required a newer Rust version. That's very bad. Now, the resolver, the MSRV-aware resolver, respects the Rust version field in your cargo.toml. That's amazing. These little things, they really make the difference. Now, cargo automatically selects the newest compatible version of a dependency. I feel better. I don't know you, but I feel better. It's the little things, Some new language and library capabilities. Async closures are stabilized in Rust 1.85, a long-awaited feature by all the Rust developers that unblocks some more natural and powerful async patterns, allowing closures to capture from their environment. It's the same code, but before this didn't compile. Now we can write this in this way. Are you happy? I am. native generators gen blocks. In Rust 2024, most of these features are about Rust 2024. We can add now these gen blocks. We can define iterators with the yield instead of manual state machines. The compiler handles the boilerplate. We have this manual iterator implementation. We implement this iterator for this countdown, and then we have this function next. Have you ever done this as an exercise? I've done this multiple times. Function next, which returns an option. An option can be some or none. And then if self-current is greater than self-end, we return the value. Otherwise, we return a none. And then we can use it with a for cycle. Now we can type let countdown equal gen, let mute current, let end equal 1. And then while current is greater than end, we can do this. Basically, it's in just 4 lines of code. For the async function in the dyn trait problem, we have now this crate called dynosaur, which is quite funny. Before we had something like this. And this here the change is not that mind-blowing, because you see the code is the same. Before, here we had in the language a macro that rewrote all your trait behind the scenes. Now this works with this Project Blast experimental approach. For low-level systems programming, this year has been really important. We have these naked functions stabilized in 1.8080 to give complete ergonomic control. It's a great improvement compared to this. You can see an example here. We have this naked function for wrapping addition, for example, for this x86-64 architecture. We have this attribute, and then we have this public unsafe extern SYSV64. We can add the first 2 arguments, RDI, RSI, and place this result in racks. And then we return from the function, which is not compiler generated. Something important is also the trait upcasting in 186. We can coerce this dyn trait. Traits are basically interfaces. Okay, I have a video about traits. To this ampersand dyn super trait. This is basically used to have multiple implementations of the same trait. Check the before here. You see this one, these 3 lines, we have this trait, my trait, and with this function as any that returns this dyn any. Instead of these 3 lines, now we can just write this, trait, my trait, any. Rust is really going into the direction of trying to simplify your syntax. And this has been done since the beginning, and I love that Rust is doing this. For people who are writing this complex unsafe code, which is basically writing Rust code without the seatbelts, we have this strict provenance APIs. They provide critical new tools for this safer point manipulation. Before, we had this ambiguous integer cast method. We had this mute data, and then we have this PTR, and then we can store this one in the last bit, casting to an integer, and to use it we have to cast back, and we don't know. We hope the best. We pray that this will happen. Hoping something as an engineer is not probably the best solution. Instead, if we are using the strict provenance APIs, we can have this same let mute data. We store the one in the address bits without losing the provenance, and to use it we just reverse the address modification. So here we can sleep well. Here we don't know if we will sleep well or not. Rust developers, they like to sleep. Also, the standard library got some practical additions. One of my favorite ones, it has been the get disjoin mute, that safely retrieves mutable reference to multiple elements in a slice or hash map simultaneously. Before, if you write something like this, it will throw an error. Now we can do it by adding this get disjoint mute function. 1.87 adds access to anonymous pipes to the standard library. You know what standard out and standard error are. For example, here you can have these 2 combined. Why? Maybe we want to create a log that contains both the standard output and standard error. We can do this in this way. It's super cool because we can join different streams into one in a straightforward way. I love this one. Okay, raise your hand if you ever did something like this at university or in a bootcamp. You have a vector with some numbers, and now you need to populate another dynamic array, another vector, with just the even number. I've done this, I think, in all the possible languages. How do you do that? If number module 2 is equal to 0, we push this to the vector. I think you understand this even if you don't understand the Rust syntax. Otherwise, we keep it in numbers. Everyone has this in their university. I actually think that this example will help you to understand Rust, because it's obvious what's happening here, obvious for a developer, of course. We have a vector of numbers, we have an empty vector, we populate this events vector with just, unsurprisingly, the even numbers. Makes sense? Does it make sense, this? That at the end we have these numbers is now with 135 and events has been populated with this 246? I hope so. Now we can do this in a single line. Let events vec numbers extract if num collect. Boom. And of course here the example is with this condition. Num divided by 2, so the module, the remind of this operation. But this can be everything, of course. The tools. Trusted Publishing, the Crates.io team has been on fire. The headline feature is Trusted Publishing. Have you ever used that? I did not, because I've been quite busy. But one of the things I want to do in 2026 is to publish a crate on crates.io with this Trusted Publishing feature. This is a massive security and convenience upgrade for anyone publishing crates from CI. By doing this, it eliminates the need for long-lived API tokens. Trusted Publishing uses OpenID Connect to grant secure and short-lived tokens directly from providers like, for example, GitHub Actions. Here we have an example. We have a GitHub action to publish on crates.io. The team has also added the ability to delete crates, published an OpenAPI spec for the API, and added a dynamic Open Graph images. Historically, the cargo cache grew indefinitely, consuming significant disk space on time. With cargo now 1.8080, cargo automatically runs garbage collection on unused cached files. I'm sure people on Twitter will say, Rust has a garbage collector now. Very poor marketing decision. This is the garbage collection of the cache. It's like the node modules of your system, which is different from running a garbage collector during the program. Do you get the difference? The community. This is probably my favorite part because Rust really cares about the community feedback. It has some data-driven prioritization, and the 2024 State of Rust survey identified compile times as the top community pain point and also the source of all the Rust memes. And this led directly to launching a dedicated compiler performance survey. So they went into the details, but what problem with the compiler? Rust is really listening to the community, and this is the thing I love the most about Rust. They are doing, it's basically what I do, like on this channel. They ask for feedback, they want to understand. When you want to understand, you are going in the right direction. They are really community driven. There is this first version of the Rust vision document, which is a formal initiative to define these high-level technical and community goals. The people at Rust want to understand what features they should implement, what features they should deprecate, and so on. FLS Adoption, we are formalizing Rust for critical systems. In March 2025, finally the Rust project adopted the FLS, Formal Language Specification. And originally, this Ferrocene language specification created by this Ferrous system and Ada core, the FLS is a specification that has been successfully used. But the project goal is to provide stable project-backed specification to support the formal verification. Many projects, they need this. They need a formal verification. And the relationship to the Rust reference is that this FLS complements but doesn't replace totally the official Rust reference. We still have the Rust reference here. The long-term goal is to bring these two documents, Rust reference and FLS complements, into the same direction. The first project using FLS has been published in July. Do you know Google Summer of Code? Because this is a sign of a healthy programming language. There has been 19 projects in the Google Summer of Code written in Rust. 19 projects. And also projects with different stacks, full stack applications, compiler internals, core tooling. This really shows how healthy this language is. Because when you see different implementations done by different people that get into the Google Summer of Code, it means that Rust can be used for different things. Are you excited as I am? Because this means that the language is used by students. Conclusion, I want to leave you some action points in case you like Rust and maybe you fall a bit behind in this crazy AI era and you didn't have time to do so many things. Use trusted publishing if you're publishing a crate with CI. Check the 2024 State of Rust survey, please. Spend some time, please, on the official documentation of Rust. Check if you want the 19 Google Summer of Code 2025 projects, the Rust ones at least, and please check the Rust 2024 article. Thank you. Hello, why you not build a real application in Rust? Rust full stack application. If you go on Google and you type Rust full stack application, the first video is mine.